Greece is between a very bad and disastrous choices. They have no good choices left. I mean, I'm an expert on bad choices. I've got 7 teenagers, and I've made a lot of bad choices myself. And what teenagers tend to do is they make the easy choice. And you can say, hey, that's not what you should do, but they want to make the easy choice. And eventually the easy choice comes back to bite them. And then they have to start making hard choices. So Greece has made a lot of easy choices. They just borrowed money, they lied about it, got away with it. They had German interest rates. Now they've got very bad choices or disastrous choices. They're going to default on the debt. My personal feeling is you just go ahead and default on it now. Tell people we're not going to pay you. They've been in default for 150 out of the 200 years. I don't know why anybody would be, even remotely thinking they won't do it again. Spain's defaulted, I think it's like 12 times in the last, this isn't new. It's just that it hasn't happened after World War II. But it used to be a common thing. Spain's got problems. And Spain's a serious part of the EU, which to me says that the euro is going to $1. And most European countries have an even worse problem of entitlements, pensions, than the US does, or Canada does. I mean, most of Europe, if they could have the US's Social Security problem, they would think the problem was solved, because that's how bad they are. Well, all of this is going to put real pressure on these governments. They've got to come up with the money somewhere, but they already have high taxes. Something's going to have to give. Britain, they're going to print money. That's just what they're going to do. They're going to monetize as part of their debt. Because they want the pound to go lower. I mean, when Martin Wolf writes, says that here's what we've got to do. We've got to allow the pound to go lower so that we can export our way out of this crisis. That's what every country wants to do. Everybody wants to export their way out of the crisis. The problem is somebody has to buy. And the buyer of last resort has been the US, but we're going to be running up against our problems. And the concern that I have is that as we see the pound go to parity and the euro go to parity, and Japan, when they hit their wall, and they need for people to fund them, that's not from their current savers, are any of you going to volunteer to buy yen at a 10-year bond for 1.5%? No. Their rates are going to go up, and pretty soon they'll be paying 20% of their government spending will be interest rates, then 30, then it's over. So what will they do? They'll print. And we'll see the yen go back up to 100. It's going to get stronger for a while. But then the yen will go to 100. Then it'll go to 125. Then it'll go to 150. Then it's 200. Do I hear bid for 250? And their corporations won't be upset because, every 1 yen move makes Honda another 25 million is what I've read. They'd kind of like that, to be able to send us cheap Hondas. Well, what's the rest of Asia going to do? They're not going to like that, so they're going to have to try to figure out how to get in on this competitive devaluation thing. Somebody's got to have a strong currency, guys. Maybe it should be you. I vote for Canada because we need to take the US dollar down so we can export to you. That's the problem. Everybody wants to export their way out of the business, but not everybody can. I think the US could go into recession next year because we're going to raise taxes significantly. on the national level, and state and local tax cuts, tax increases and reduced spending is about the same size as the Bush tax cuts. So we're going to take 2% of our GDP and increase taxes. That's a hard thing to do when your GDP may only be growing at 1%. That throws us back into recession. That increases our unemployment. It'll decrease our tax collections. It'll make the deficit get worse. And as everybody else is taking their currencies down, it's going to make it more difficult for us to export, and you're going to see some real political hardcore discussions about whose currency should be where and what, protectionism. It could be, my biggest concern, and I wrote this back in 2002, the only thing that really keeps me up at night is that we could see a wave of protectionism coming out of all of this, and coming from the US, the home of the free markets, because we're watching everybody else take their currencies down, and it just doesn't look fair. And you know what? It won't be fair. It's going to be hard to argue. It's going to be a difficult environment. So let's do some Q&A.